And it shows that we're live. I'll give it a minute and see if we have some people tune in, and we'll get started. I'd hate to get into anything too deep before we have people listening. So
cool.
Hey Chase, how you doing, buddy? Let's see if I can show comments on the stage. There we go.
We got it too.
I wonder.
Oh, it's right here too.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool.
May not need Heather to. I don't know. We'll go back and forth in between the screens there, but
I can help too.
Thank you.
She's pretty good at it.
I'm sure. Let's see where we at. All right, so we've got 8 on. We'll give them just another minute or two, but yeah. So, I mean, just about a little bit about my history with you guys. I really kind of got deep into bourbon in late 23, early 24, and I had bought some FREY Ranch online and had it sent here, and never did get into the uncut that I had, and ended up giving that to a friend of mine, Tiffany, and she ended up giving it to a friend of ours, Michelle, and come to find out that particular pick was one of Michelle's favorites that she had been looking for or something. I don't know, but I felt bad about letting it go because I never did try it and get into it, So I was glad to get in touch with you guys and get these bottles. But all right, so it looks like we've got 12 people on. We'll go ahead and get into it. Everybody, thank y'all for tuning in. Colby, Ashley, thank you guys. I'm really excited to chat with you guys tonight. I'm really mesmerized by what you guys have going on. And basically, I just kind of want to give you guys the platform to talk a little bit about FREY Ranch and, kind of how you guys started it and, where you see it going. I know what little bit I've read off of the internet, and I'm really impressed off of that, right? Like just a heritage of farming, and seems like eventually you guys decided to start the distillery. You had everything you needed to start it, right? Maybe other than the distilling equipment. And would love to hear about some of the pain points getting started, and then some of the successes that you guys have had, and then some of the exciting things that we've got coming up, that you guys have coming up. So I'll give you guys the floor to just run away with it, and we'll see what people ask, and we'll go that way if that's okay with you.
We can do that for sure. We could talk for a long time if we have to. So it all started, my family's been farming here in northern Nevada, so we're kind of closer to Reno. We're close to Tahoe. And we started farming here in 1854. Nevada didn't become a state until 1864, 10 years later. And we've been continually farming in Nevada ever since. And really the importance of that is we know how to grow the grains in our specific soil, with our climate, with our irrigation techniques. Like no matter where you go in the world, agriculture is completely different. So by really understanding, our area, our climate, our soils, everything allows us to grow the best ingredients. And so ever since I was a little boy, I wanted to be a farmer. It's like in your blood. I don't really know how to explain it other than like it's like instinctual. And I think it's like survival over the last thousands of years. Like if you didn't hunt, fish, or grow crops, then you didn't survive. And I have that like instinct that just I don't feel right if I'm not out on the farm and growing something, And so we'd always grown wheat, rye, barley, and corn. We knew that they were really high quality, but it's just not very fulfilling to just sell it on the open market and feed it to cattle or whatever, the end use is. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of every farmer's dream to be able to share their crops with the world. And so we thought, what better way to do something meaningful? We also really started to really enjoy and love whiskey, me and Ashley, and thought, what better way to really take those grains and create something special and meaningful than to make it into whiskey? And so that's why we created what we call the whiskey farm. And we grow the whiskey for a specific purpose. The grains for a specific purpose, which is to become whiskey. And that's pretty rare in the whiskey world. Traditionally it's just a commodity and you kind of get what you get most of the time. And I think that there's often a disconnect between farmers and distillers, because distillers don't really know what's possible on the farm, but farmers don't really know what distillers want or need. And so by really understanding both sides, it's the best way to get the best quality ingredients. And with anything, with better inputs, end up with better outputs. And so by growing our own grains and growing them in a way that encourages quality, not necessarily quantity, is the best way we can do that. So we're located here in Fallon, Nevada, like I said earlier, but Fallon is the oasis of Nevada. So we do have beautiful water that comes from both sides of Lake Tahoe. We call it Sierra Snowmelt. And it comes down to a reservoir where we irrigate all of our crops. If you go any direction in like 10 miles, it's nothing but dirt. You know, Nevada is so dry, but we have that abundance of beautiful crystal. You know, Tahoe is known for its crystal clear water, and we're fortunate to be able to irrigate all of our crops. It recharges our aquifer and use that beautiful water right here on the farm.
I think it's really unique that, you know, that you guys can grow all the grain there and utilize it to make the whiskey and still come out with such a phenomenal whiskey. Because a point that was made to me by Seth Detling a long time ago was his perception was, you know, there are certain places that grow certain grains better than others, right? So there's rye that grows better here, wheat that grows better there. And so he's like, his thought process or methodology on that is to get those grains from those locations. And when you grow them all in one location, man, you really have to dig in and understand what you've got going on to get the best of each grain, right? I'm pretty sure that your area, or when you first started farming all these different grains, each grain has to be farmed differently, I would assume, and takes different care.
But that's where that 175 years of what to do and what not to do on the particular grains, there's different variety. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. So it goes from number one, like irrigation management, it's seed selection. So there's hundreds, if not thousands, of different varieties of wheat, rye, barley, and corn. I mean, it even goes so deep into like wheat, for example. You can have winter wheat and you can have spring wheat. But then you also have hard red winter wheat, hard white winter wheat. You have soft white winter wheat, hard white winter wheat. You know what I mean? And then you have those spring wheats. And then in each one of those categories is different varieties and things like that. And so it's that trial and error of the last 150 years that we've always grown wheat, rye, barley, and corn, kind of played the market. It's really important to rotate our crops. We don't want to grow wheat on the same field year after year after year, you know, even if it grows really well. It's not good for the soil. It's not good for pest buildup, things like bugs and insects and, you know, things like that. So, so we've always grown wheat, rye, barley, and corn. And then we always do test trials. So we're always experimenting with different. Last year we did 10 different varieties of corn. I think we did 4 different varieties of rye. Now we do 98% or 99% is what we know is going to work. But then we'll add a little bit of the other stuff, and we're always looking at different variables, like how, number one, like how it grows, you know, is the kind of the obvious one, but then also how it mills, like different grains mill differently. So like how it breaks down and how, you know, it breaks down in the mash cooker. So we're converting the starches to sugars in the mash cooker. So we're looking at that. We're looking at how it ferments, then we're looking at how it distills and tastes, you know, all of that. So it's kind of fun to be able to control all that. And there's certain things we can do on the farm to make better quality grains. And I mean, the easiest one for me to explain is like nitrogen fertilizer, for example. Traditionally, the more nitrogen you put on, the bigger your yield is. The problem with nitrogen is nitrogen boosts protein in grains, and protein and starch are inverse. So when one goes up, the other goes down, you know, kind of like.
Okay.
So if we boost the protein, the starch goes down. Starch is what eventually turns into alcohol during the breakdown and fermentation process. So, and protein's kind of a nuisance in the distillery. We just don't need it or want it. But if you think about it, protein is really important in the cattle industry, right? So the biggest consumer of grain is the cattle industry. Cattle need protein. So a farmer on the other side would put on more nitrogen, get higher protein. It's better for the cows. It's a win-win-win. But for us growing it ourselves, we can sacrifice that quantity for quality, you know, which, I mean, that's one of a lot of different kind of examples that we do. But we have to look at each grain differently. So wheat, rye, barley, and corn, you know, but being here in northern Nevada, we're in what's called the high desert. It gets really cold winters and really fairly hot summers. And so it's really great for wheat, rye, and barley. We grow winter crops. And then the corn we plant around May 10th because corn cannot withstand a frost. So we plant it May 10th because there's a very low chance of frost. but it's early enough in the season that it'll mature over the summer. So, you know,
I
that's
think the irrigation techniques too on the corn are really important, that we're controlling the water and not relying on Mother Nature.
Yeah, and that's what's great about our particular area is we get very little rainfall. So it's all that Sierra snowmelt, like I said, in a reservoir that we get our water from. So we irrigate the crops when we need, when we decide to, when they need it. Not necessarily like, there's nothing wrong with dry land farming. Like it's great to rely on rain or whatever, but it's just every farmer that I know and talk to, all of my friends there are like, it's either too much water or not enough water. And so by being able to control our water, we get it irrigated when it needs to. All of our crops are all flood irrigated. So we don't use any pumps or wells or anything like that, or sprinklers. Like there is a lot of farms that use sprinklers, like overhead pivots and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That uses a tremendous amount of electricity to pump the water out of the ground, number one. And then, you know, the problem with that is for the distilling aspect and the grain is they grow great grains on pivots and dryland farming and everything. So don't get me wrong, but I've always loved the fact that the way that we flood irrigate the fields, the grain, wheat, rye, and barley grows at the top of the plant. Corn, the ear is kind of in the middle of the stalk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we flood irrigate right at the base of the plant. So the water never comes in contact with the grain. So now we don't have mold, like fungal issues like mold or mildew and things like that. So
never thought of that.
We've never had to spray a fungicide on any of our crops because we just don't have a lot of humidity. We don't have a lot of rainfall, and all the water, like I said, goes at the base of the plant when it needs it. So, you know, I have a friend that's a crop duster, and he goes to Kansas, Iowa, Kentucky, Illinois every year and has to spray fungicides on all their corn crops because they have those problems that are really hard to overcome. So we're just lucky to be where we're at. It's perfect for aging the whiskey too. We get down like 110 during the summers. It gets down to like 0 during the winter. So we get really that hot expansion in the barrels during the hot summers, the contraction during the cold winters. It's just kind of, it's perfect for almost everything.
So Ashley, did you grow up in a farm family, or is this all new to you? Or
no, to answer your question, did not grow up in a family that has agricultural roots. And I always say it's more than just growing up in a family that is in farming, but now being married to a family with like entrepreneurs. And my parents were like 9 to 5, right? Weekends off, holidays, family vacations. So entrepreneur and like farming lifestyle is so different because not only do you work weekends and holidays and what's a family vacation, right?
Yeah.
Teasing, we get our fair share of trips, but it is a different lifestyle. Agriculture, you work for that one payment all year because you sell your crop, and when Mother Nature gets in the way, or tractors break down, it's just a different mentality, and it does take a long while to get used to it because it's so different.
And y'all are on both sides of it. I mean, you're doing the farming and the distillation and the sales of the whiskey. Like, holy cow, this thing
that's what makes it fun. I mean, I'll be really honest. I love, the whole circle, being able to watch the crops grow and then harvest and then going to the distillery and then tasting the whiskey and then bottling it, working in the tasting room or going out to market and doing bottle signings and meeting customers. That's honestly what really keeps us going, is being able to be a part of the whole process. We call it from ground to glass, where most people just don't get to experience that whole closed loop. And it's really, it's satisfying and a lot of fun.
For me, it's fun because sometimes I get to be a farmer. Sometimes I'm a distiller. Sometimes I'm out selling. But I mean, in all those jobs, there's 100 different jobs. So like as a farmer, sometimes I'm a mechanic, and sometimes I'm a tractor driver, and sometimes I'm the weatherman trying to decide what it's going to do so we can get ahead of it or wait till after, or, like all that kind of stuff. Then you get in the distillery and playing around with different mash bills and all that stuff. And then you come to the office, and that's my least favorite place to be, but it's probably the most important, to keep track of everything and make sure everything's going right. So anyways, I kind of got the best of all those worlds.
Well, another question for you, Ashley, for me, and I always have to ask, is at what point did you start trying whiskey, and at what point did you decide that, you know what, I like whiskey? And I ask that always because Heather is growing in that, but she's still on the far end of just not quite there yet, right? But
Yeah.
she's open-minded. She tries everything. We have several ladies in the group, and she usually will pick their brain and their how they learned to start liking whiskey, so on and so forth. So it just intrigues me. Did you always like whiskey, or was there a point in time where you had to kind of work your way through?
I've always loved American whiskey. I love the category. I love, the hype around it. I love tasting and I love cocktails. But it wasn't until we really started our single barrel program that I got into drinking cask strength whiskeys and pulling out all the nuanced flavors. And I'm the lucky one that gets to run the barrel program. So it's my favorite part of my job is hosting groups, pulling barrels, tasting through them. We have so much fun with our team going out to the barrel house and, picking through some of our distillers reserves or what goes into the online offerings or our tasting room. But that's really where my palate developed is sampling, trying, learning.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, a lot of practice. And then when we sit down and do the tasting notes for the barrels with the team, it's like, hey, are you getting dried apricot? And it's like, now I am, or I didn't know that, that's how that translated through the whiskey, but it's such a fun process to go through and learn and experiment and
it is
practice. Yeah.
So Jerry's asking, can you explain the thoughts that go into your distillery reserve and the vaults? And he said he purchased a bottle that was released from the ball, and it's so unique from the other offerings that you guys have. So he wanted to ask if there was a certain profile that you guys were shooting for.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So our single barrel program is really different than a lot of other brands because instead of just sending, random barrels from the rick house for the barrel program, we actually taste through every barrel that either gets blended into our farm strength or our 90 proof, but then we kick out barrels that are really unique. So they might be really creamy, really spicy, really fruit forward. Maybe something that's like
spicy or creamy.
Yeah. Like we have this one barrel that's coming up. That's like, we're calling it our watermelon barrel because it smells. I mean, it's like undeniable.
It's like watermelon Jolly Rancher.
Wow.
Yeah.
And yeah, watermelon Jolly Rancher is like the perfect way to put it. And so we tasted these barrels. I mean, we've had like Bazooka Mint, or
we just had one that tasted like an aperitif, like a gin.
Yeah.
Flavor to it.
We have like apple cinnamon oatmeal that's coming out, and again, like this is maybe after too many samples, but when we go back to visit it, like we're like, no, that is straight up apple cinnamon oatmeal. So we kick out those barrels and we throw them in the program. But when we're always going back to kind of some of these fun barrels like the watermelon or the Bazooka Mint bubblegum, those are the ones that we throw into the Distillers Reserve because they're fun. They stand out. We get some amazing tasting notes. And most importantly, like we experience it and we want other people to experience it. So we are in the records, like, nope, this one, we call them a DR, a Distillers Reserve. It's going to go online and we can't wait for people to try these barrels.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of fun for me too, is we pull down about 100. Well, each one of our batches of our flagship bourbon is about 100 barrels. We might pull down 115 or 120, and then we kick out our favorite or most unique 15 or 20 out of there. All the other ones are really good, but they might just taste like FREY Ranch or nothing special. A good one to
blend. Yeah.
It's so cool. And like, have you guys ever figured out how to duplicate any of those? Because I feel like it's just so hard to ever know exactly what happened and what might have brought that note out in that whiskey, and how to ever duplicate it.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And I think the biggest contributing factor to kind of these little nuances, because I mean, obviously it doesn't taste like just a Jolly. You just get those little bits of flavor in there. You know what I mean? The Jolly Rancher. But the barrels impart so much flavor because it'll literally be the same tank of whiskey, like the White Dog that we're putting into the barrels, the same tank, but 10 different barrels, on the same, rack or whatever in the warehouse.
Yeah,
and
I've experienced it.
Completely different. You know what I mean? And it's just it's wild to see that and kind of experience it when we're tasting through the barrels.
About how many barrels are you guys sitting on right now? And what like how many barrels do you put out a year? How many do you lay down a year rather?
So we're at 20, sitting here, we have about 22,000, 23,000.
Yeah,
we
but
produced like 30, almost 30,000.
I was going to say, I think we've filled 30,000, but we're constantly filling and emptying. So I think we're probably like 22, 25.
Yeah, I got to look for sure because it's always going up and down.
But we don't
Sure.
do a lot of barrels in our single barrel program.
We only have so many.
Yeah, we only have so many. And when we're picking them, it's like we don't want all the barrels to taste the same. And when retailers or whiskey groups come in, we want that huge variation, and we want them to debate, and we want them to say, I like this one because of this flavor profile. And then the next guy's like, yeah, but like this one has, this amazing fruitcake or cinnamon spice or, red hot, like.
I think that's the only thing that keeps the single barrel alive, right? Because we're also similar.
Yeah.
So I think we could sell 10 times more single barrels, but we don't want to compromise our quality and who we are and our kind of personal connection with it and everything. So we just do so many. But it's
fun to see like where they go, and we'll fall in love with certain barrels, and it's like that one's headed to Georgia or Florida or Texas or wherever, and like.
We just did one this morning with a group from Southern California, so it's kind of fun to meet people from around the world and show them the ranch and show them what we've
been drinking all day.
Yeah.
We've been working.
It's not drinking, it's working.
Work. What size groups do y'all typically host for those? Because I would love to come out there either the latter part of this year or maybe early next year and pick a barrel for our group. But how many people? Everybody in the group wants to come, right? You guys are like
it's hard when there's a lot, because then we've had groups of like 20, and they've just done like a silent vote where they like put it on a piece of paper, and that was kind of fun.
But it's not quite as personable or anything.
Like there's no you lose the debate.
Eight is probably like a lot, but it's enough to where everybody's talking and we can debate and everything else. But you get 20 and it's just too many to talk about what they're liking and don't like, and you know what I mean?
I agree. We did one at Old Dominic this past weekend, and I was really nervous. We had 30. I've only ever had 6 to 8. 6 to 8 is just.
How'd it go?
And it went really well. So what I was going to say is they had silver buckets lined up with numbers on them, and so you had samples 1 through 6, and everybody put their poker chip in the bucket that they wanted. 4 and 6 were the two that were neck and neck. And so we just went back and blinded those two, and people voted, and we went 16 to 11 and ended up taking, the one barrel that got all the votes and then a partial of the barrel that had the other votes. But it worked out pretty well. But what I did find is, you'd have like tables of 5, and those tables would typically vote the same way because of the conversation that was going on at that table, basically. But it's not as intimate within the entire group. I guess when you have 6 to 8, you are that table per se, and you just have a lot more table. But I was afraid it was going to be so scattered and so spread across that we really couldn't determine or decipher, what the winning barrel was. And it turned out well, but I definitely see the caution on that. And I hope that, the time comes that we can come out there. I'd love to come out and video your place. I think it's beautiful. And obviously we've got several people in our group that are dying to come out there and do a single barrel pick with y'all.
Yeah,
sure. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
So what are like some big things that you guys have coming up? We're still early in 26. Y'all have some pretty large things planned for this year, or status quo?
Well, I think the biggest one this year, and we haven't really talked a lot about it, is we have our first 10-year coming out. So that's going to be a good one. We'll have our next Harvester series, which we're working on, which, we're pretty proud of. It's you're familiar with our Harvester series?
I haven't had it, but I've seen several people that do have it. I just haven't had a pour of it yet. Yeah.
So the inspiration behind that is that we know how to grow the best possible grains, like in our area, and for distilling, for us distilling purposes. Our stills, which we really didn't talk about, we have a continuous still and a pot still, where everything gets stripped in the continuous still and then redistilled in the pot still. So rather than using a continuous still doubler, like a lot of distilleries, we use a continuous still and then a pot still. I like that because it doesn't really burn the grain, because we we distill grain in when we're distilling, when you're just using a pot still. And then the other problem with the pot still is you just can't do a lot of volume. And so by using a continuous still to strip it, you're just taking it from 8% alcohol to 40% alcohol. We put that 40% alcohol in the pot still and redistill it to where we can take a really dedicated heads, hearts, and tails cuts, exactly what we want, which is the benefit of a pot still, why you can do a lot better quality in that way. And so we kind of get the best of both worlds. So we know how to grow the grains. We got the best like distillation techniques. We haven't really like cut any corners there. And we know what we like, and we're pretty decent blenders. We know, but we hired Nancy Fraley to help us. And really,
is she good at blending? Does she know whiskey at all?
Oh yeah, she's done it a couple times.
Once or twice.
She would come in here and just taste like 40 or 50 whiskeys and still be able to pick out notes where I'm like, my tongue is a raisin.
Yeah, I mean? Me too.
I think she said at like the height of her career, was it like
200?
Yeah, she could evaluate 200 whiskeys in a day.
Yo, come on.
I'm like 40 or 50 is kind of like my max.
I do 8 to 10. I do 8 to 10. I feel like I'm smoked.
She's an expert, and what I really like about her is that when she does a blend, she's really big on like, let's do it together. Let's taste it together. Let's learn together. Let's craft the tasting notes together. And so we're not just like letting her do it all. I mean, she would do a fabulous job, but we want to learn. Like we want to have fun. And we want to,
give our
we want to like have our input. Yeah.
And she's cool enough to teach you and not gatekeep, right? Like I reached out to her on Instagram, and I'm nobody, and she'll just, we get to talking back and forth, and she's so much fun to talk to.
Yes.
I thought I was going to get to meet her at 7-3 and had an opportunity to go to Broad Branch and meet her this year, but adulting and working gets in the way. So I work out of town and wasn't able to go, but hopefully I'll get to meet up with her eventually. It would be an honor to.
I didn't really finish, but the harvester. So then what we do is we give Nancy samples, and really our goal from the beginning was to showcase the grains that we grow here on the farm. So we make mostly bourbon. We make about 80% bourbon, 15% rye, and then 5% other stuff, which is like a crazy array of, we have 100% wheat, 100% corn, 100% malted corn, 100% barley, 100% malted barley, 100%, and then 100% rye. We have the smoked oat and rye. We have a quad malt where it's wheat, rye, barley, and corn. All 4 grains are malted in our same mash bill as our bourbon. We have an oat whiskey. We have 5 grains with oats, like all this crazy stuff. It's super small quantities. And so we kind of give her free reign and just say, you take anything we have. You just got to create the best whiskey you possibly can out of what we got right now. And so like our harvester number 1 was a rye base. So it's primarily rye with some like, the tweakers to tweak the flavor profiles of all the different grains. Number 2 was wheat. Like she said, wheat was speaking to her. And so I'm kind of excited to see where number 3 goes this year.
Yeah, it was so funny. Just a side note, when she came out, we were, we were going through a bunch of samples, and we were like, well, here's our farm strength, which our farm strength is a small batch blend but all bourbon. And she tasted, and I can't remember which batch it was, 14, 15?
14, yeah.
Was it 14? And she goes, oh my gosh, batch 14 is phenomenal. Like, can this be the harvester? We were like, no, it's like our farm strength. So batch 14 farm strength was top notch in her book for anybody.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So are those, I guess we call those experimental barrels, maybe, are those things that like when pick teams come out, do they ever get to try through some of those, or do y'all ever send any samples of those out? Because I would love to try some of those.
Occasionally we let people try them.
Usually, we don't have barrels. We don't have a lot of barrels to sell, but try them for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if we can give everybody one of those, but usually what we do is like we start with the bourbon, and then like our really good customers get kind of one of those special ones after a bourbon and a rye maybe, or whatever,
Yeah, I was just thinking in terms of just trying it and seeing what it tastes like to experience it kind of thing, as opposed to picking the barrel. But
for sure,
those all are so unique. I don't know that I've heard of many people doing 100% oat whiskey. Maybe that's just my lack of knowledge, but that intrigues me. So
I know why people don't do it. It's a pain in the ass, but
I know that some people, use it in the whiskey, and I feel that my understanding, I guess it gives the whiskey a smoother texture, like a more creamy type of texture. But I enjoy it in the whiskeys that I know that it's part of, but I've never had it as 100%.
Yeah.
So very cool. Let's see if we've got some other questions over
Yeah, I
here.
saw some good ones come through. Oh, Michael's writing a book.
Yeah. You can reach out. I mean, I think like info at FREY Ranch, and it'll get to us if you want to reach out.
Need to get the weeded and the oat bottles.
We've got some folks going to Vegas, which is cool.
Gordon's Pub asked about putting our still together. That is a kind of a good funny story.
Yeah.
So when we got our stills, like it was really my indecisiveness of I wanted a continuous still for the quantity. I wanted a pot still to be able to take a really dedicated heads, hearts, and tails cuts. I know there's ways to do that on a continuous still, but it's just not nearly as efficient and precise as a pot still, you know. And so,
right.
So I talked to Vendome, and we came up with this kind of a hybrid where we have both. We have a continuous stripping still, and then it feeds into a pot still rather than a doubler, and they, you know, whatever. And so at the time,
and no solids go into the pot still at that point, though, right?
No,
it's just
so it's only stripped 40% alcohol. Traditionally, is what goes in it in our place. Occasionally, like oats, like we were talking about, they have 60% holes, which is like a protective shell around the oat. Those holes seem to plug up the continuous still, so that's the one that we might just run through the pot still because of the pain in the butt part of running it through the continuous. Anyways, so so at the time, Vendome made hundreds, if not thousands, of continuous stills and pot stills. You know, they're huge. They made everybody in Kentucky. They're amazing people. Anyways, but they never really made them where they work in unison together like that. And so they took a couple pictures. I think Russell, our master distiller, said, "Hey, do you guys got like a manual or anything to put it together?" And they're like, "If you need a manual, you shouldn't own it." And we're like, "That's fair enough. Like, we agree."
Wow.
So they sent us 2 pictures. They disassembled it. I think they said for $35,000 or something like that. They would send somebody to point fingers to help us put it together, but not put it together for us, but, you know, like show us how to put it together. We're like, we're farmers. This is kind of what we do. And like, I love figuring this kind of stuff out. So I'm like, no, we got it. So me and Russell, it took us only 2 days. We had the whole still together. Whatever. The 3rd day we fired it up and it was running. And at the time, it was running perfect. So we called Vendome and we're like, "Hey, everything's great. Thanks." You know, it was a little hard putting together, looking at those 2 pictures. And the guy on the other line said, "Oh, I didn't send you the blueprints." And they had blueprints this whole time. And we put the still together without them. But it really is a blessing in disguise because we really understand it. We know how to use it. We know how it works. We know why it does what it does. And the best way to get the best out of anything is to really understand it, obviously, right?
Right.
And so we can make a better product that way, but we can also fix it. We know how to fix it, what to do. You know, in-house, we've never had an unplanned day of shutdown. We kind of know what the inside of the still looks like.
That's
saying
a lot.
Spare parts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And there were several years, not this year and not necessarily next year or last year, but there was a couple years when we were really trying to build up our inventory that we ran 362 days a year. So we only took a couple days off.
It was actually really nice.
Maybe 63. I don't know. We live here, so like we're never alone. Like I mean, I'd go water the flowers, and there's just like always somebody here, which was really nice and comforting. We really are a big family. Yeah.
That's very impressive, man. I mean, I work offshore for, a multi-billion-dollar oil company, and we can't say that we keep that kind of runtime. That's very impressive. And how much automation do you guys have as far as like your valves and all that kind of stuff and transmitters? And
a little bit, but not much. I mean, so I think you have to manually put it in, but like our variable speed drive pumps have flow meters in it, so you can set the flow. Not necessarily the speed of the pump, because we'd always have problems with it, something getting stuck in there a little bit and changing it, or, something happening. And when you don't get a really consistent flow in the continuous stills, it really changes your product, and so our goal is to be really consistent in everything we do. And so we got these flow meters, and then they're connected to a variable speed drive that connects the pump. So, I mean, that's little bit of automation, nothing fancy where you're sitting there at a screen pushing buttons really or anything like that.
Yeah, you're not opening and closing valves and sending things left and right by automation or sitting in front of a control board.
Oh, and then the only other thing that we really have that's somewhat automated is like our cooling jackets and stuff on the fermenters and mash cooker and everything. You know, you set the temperature to set point to turn on at 78 or 82 and off at 78 or what, you know what I mean? And everything's pretty hands-on still.
So going through the pot still, do you typically, I know if you cook in the pot still, typically you're going to yield a lower proof, and you're saying that you're going in the pot still a little lower proof. What are y'all coming out of the pot still at? What are you going in the barrel at typically? Or what are you coming off the still at? Is what my real question is.
Usually the average is like 140-ish.
No kidding.
Proof. Okay. And then we cut it down to 125, obviously, to put it into the barrels.
Okay, so y'all go in full strength. Okay.
Yeah, full strength, and then
Do y'all ever see any increase upwards of hazmat on barrels? That shows my lack of knowledge of y'all's product, because I haven't.
Not a ton.
Like,
yeah.
What, five barrels maybe out of a lot?
Yeah.
Usually they like our farm strength is a good representation of our proofs, where it's usually right around 125 because it's 100 barrels blended together, 100 something. So, but the reason for that is like it would get really out of hand in the barrel warehouses if we didn't add humidity. So humidity is really important for two reasons. Number one is the obvious: the angel share will be a lot more at lower humidity. But you still have angel share at high humidity, just like you do at lower humidity. Maybe it's not as much, but the ratio at high humidity of water to alcohol, you actually lose more alcohol. So the proof will stay the same or possibly go down or whatever at high humidity. At low humidity, you actually lose more water than alcohol. So the problem with that is your proof goes way up, which is fine if you're single barrel proof, whatever, guys. But it's not okay because a lot of our whiskeys we cut down to 100 proof or 90 proof, and now we have to add more water, and it's less concentrated and less flavorful as we're adding that water back down, cutting it back down to 90 proof. Right. So anyways, that humidity really kind of helps keep it in check. But occasionally we do have some crazy high ones. We just had one today we tasted. There's only 116, so it lost quite a bit of proof in the barrel.
Right.
But
what was it like flavor wise?
It was that the rye?
Really good. Yeah, the rye, the middle one on the rye. Yeah. It was good. It had was it like bubblegum mint, I think, like flavors in it. Yeah.
Rye.
But then we had another one we tasted today. There's 138 proof. So it's pretty wild how they change.
The proof number, I always tell, like when we go do a pick, I'm like, I want it 100% blind. I don't want to know if it's rye, wheat, bourbon. Yeah. I don't care. I don't care about the proof or any of that. But I get picked at a lot because I say that I want cask strength whiskey, unbastardized. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to add water to the distillate, that's fine. But adding water to the whiskey coming out of the barrel, for me personally, it's not what I prefer. I just like that concentrated flavor. And I don't care if that's a pot still Michter, barrel straight rye that's 108 proof, 109 proof. I just want that concentrated flavor that came out of the barrel. And I know that's not always you couldn't sell whiskey if you only sold to somebody like myself, because you've got some people that are going to enjoy the proof down whiskey, and that's fine. But for me, I don't drink whiskey much. I just love to taste it, right? So I have a ton of very small pours in a night because I just want to taste it on my palate. And so I just like it really concentrated, but that's just a personal preference.
Yeah, and that's the best thing about whiskey is everybody says, how should we drink it? And it's like, however you want to or how you like it. Yeah, you got to figure that out. I can't tell you how you like stuff. You got to figure that out yourself.
That's right. Yeah, it's yours. You bought it. You want to put ice in it, soda in it, whatever, ice cream. I don't care. Yeah. Awesome. Let's see what else we've got over here. Scott McFadden says, if y'all could invite one or two people, dead or alive, to share a bottle of FREY Ranch around the bonfire in the farm, who would it be?
I think the main one. So my grandpa bought the ranch that we have right now in 1944. We've been farming in the area since 1854, but we couldn't do all that we do today without him. So I think it'd be fun to show him what we did, and I think he'd be really proud of it, and kind of seeing what his farm and what he kind of started evolved into.
Yeah, and I think for me, it would be more of like in the future, I'm really looking forward to sharing the whiskey that we make with our kids when they're old enough to drink. So right
Very
now,
cool.
they don't know the difference between like whiskey or wine or beer. You know, everything is like,
Everything is whiskey. It's weird.
Yeah,
If you have a
everything's
glass
whiskey.
of wine, it's like
Whiskey,
you drinking
yeah.
whiskey, and they're 12 and 10. So we don't.
yeah,
correct
they
them.
don't know
That's
the
funny.
difference, like of an old fashioned or like a margarita or whatever. But I'm excited for that day, you know, when they can finally understand, realize, enjoy the whiskey that, you know, we worked so hard while they were growing up to make.
How old are they? Because I have a question to come off of that.
Yeah, almost 10
yeah.
and 12 and a half.
Do y'all have any specific barrels set aside specifically for them? I've been to a couple of distilleries and talked with some different owners, and they specifically set barrels aside for their kids or certain, you know, when they graduate high school and they get married, blah, blah, blah. And so these barrels will come of age during those anticipated times, and that barrel will, you know, specifically go to them. I didn't know.
I don't think we set barrels aside, but we set a lot of bottles aside. Colby
Awesome.
actually has cases of, you know, some of our favorite batches, and that's what we would like to share with them, is more of the bottled stuff instead of a single barrel.
For sure.
I mean, that's my opinion. We never talked about it, but
Yeah, I just thought that was pretty unique. We went out to Montana, and gee whiz, I can't even remember the name of the distillery, but he had set aside several barrels for each of his kids for them to be able to bottle and sell and quote unquote help with their college cost. And then I know Philip Messier with Distillery Acadienne has a couple of special, you know, barrels that he will not bottle until his kids are of age, and that'll be theirs, and it'll have their name on it. So just something unique and cool. I thought that.
Yeah.
But I'm looking back through the questions now to see what else we've got. We've got about 10 minutes or so.
Oh, the old milk truck out back. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Not that many people know about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk to me about it.
So it's just it's called a Divco. And I think it's from the 1960s Divco milk truck. If you look that up, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Like from the front, they look like puppy dogs. And we rescued that from the scrapyard. It's farm 60 miles away, but they were scrapping everything and cleaning everything up. And I just said, I want that thing. So we put it back there. I always wanted to fix it up.
One day you will.
I know.
Yeah.
This whole being a distiller, farmer, and traveling around the country and trying to be a good dad, taking away my time to go and fix the Divco.
One day,
but it will get fixed one day. And
yeah.
I think like kind of what I like to do is growing up with my dad, we built wagons and cannons, and we remodeled tractors and old antique cars and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of gave me the confidence to build the distillery. And so when our 9-year-old, almost 10-year-old is a couple more years old, I think I'd like to go start doing that kind of stuff. But him and I do things like we made a wavy wooden flag that's behind, I don't know, you can kind of see it right there. Yeah. So him and I made that, we ground it all out, made it all wavy, and we did checkerboards out of the toppers. And I'm just trying to start them off on little stuff, and that might be our big project down the road.
Too cool. You know, it's so crazy how, switching gears a little bit back to the whiskey, but how palates change, because the other day when I did the video to review this bottle, for me, the bottle seemed pretty floral. Today, it doesn't seem floral whatsoever. And it's super sweet and it's absolutely delicious. And this one seemed a lot darker and more my jam. And today I'm leaning over towards this one more so. It's just it's wild to me. Like, who knows what I ate today or
what do you have there? Maybe I missed it earlier.
So this is the quad malt. You guys sent these out, or Jesse sent these out, and then this is the farm strength uncut.
Oh, the farm. What batch of farm strength?
Like, where does it? Batch 17.
Batch 17, yeah.
Yeah. What's the age on that?
About? So usually it's like an average of 6-ish years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now. So
and that's another thing that I, living in the South, that I've learned that is relative, right? Obviously, I don't know enough about Nevada to understand, but I hit Fred up one time because him and Kenny and then were on Bourbon Pursuit talking about age statements coming back. And, I hit him up. I was like, man, you realize everything you guys said today was relative to Kentucky. I was like, when we talk about age statements, I'm not going to drink a 10-year Canadian, whiskey. I'm not going to drink, and it's going to be different than a 14-year Kentucky, which is different than a 6-year Alabama or Mississippi whiskey. Like age is super relative, and things just mature different in different areas. A Crittenden or a Detling 6 or 8-year whiskey is not like a 6-year Kentucky whiskey, but I know a lot of people, they'll be like, I'm not drinking that 6-year stuff. It's way too young, and this whiskey doesn't seem young at all. Like it's well matured. I'd love to see what the 10 years like that you guys have coming out though.
Yeah, it's
the
delicious,
10 years delicious, but I honestly, when we tasted it, I'm like, it's over oaked. I don't think I like it. I was kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
But then we proofed it down to 100 and it brought out all this like caramel and just amazing flavors.
Nice.
And so we're big fans of like with the quad malt is we'll taste it at barrel strength at 120, 115, 110, 105, 200 and bottle it at the best flavor. And it really does. Water brings out like there's natural oils that are in whiskey, right? That are soluble in alcohol. So as you bring that alcohol down, it brings out some of the natural oils that are in the whiskey. And so that's why sometimes it's better at higher proof. Sometimes it's better at lower proof. And so it's kind of fun to taste it. And this whiskey was just like one of my favorites after we proofed it to 100 proof.
Yeah. And I would say that we also get to try the whiskey at various stages in its journey of aging. And like it dramatically changes from like 2 years to 3 and then 3 to 4. And then it's a very gradual shift from like 4 to 5, 5 to 6. Like 4 years old is really, really good. Like I don't get any of that like moonshiny funk or anything like that. It's really good. I think when we wait to 5 and 6 years old, it does get better, but the big
peak,
shift,
I think,
the big shift I think is between like 2 and 3 years. Obviously, when you put it in the barrel in 2 years, but that like 2 to 3 years, it changes a lot.
I like our whiskey best at like 6-ish to 7, 5 to 7-ish range. I mean, there's a lot of variables there, barrels and all the other things.
And it depends on your mood. Like at 4, you're able to like a lot of the grain, which is really good too.
One time we did a barrel pick with the San Francisco World Spirits Competition. So they did a few single barrels that they wanted to sell or whatever with their judges. And it's funny because we sent them 2 5 years, 2 6 years, and 2 7 years, and they were 5 and change, whatever, 6 and 7s. We didn't tell them what they were, and so obviously the easiest way to do any barrel pick, as you know, is to start eliminating better than trying to pick your favorite. So they eliminated the 7s, then they eliminated the 2 6s, and then they're trying to decide which one of the 2 5s they like better. And so it just kind of shows you that age is not always better, but there's some fantastic 10, 15, 20-year-old whiskeys, but there's some good ones that are younger too.
Tiffany's laughing at me, and I was hoping to say a comment before she chimed in. I knew she was sitting in the back listening to y'all, just dying laughing because she's saying that I don't want any water in my whiskey, which is what I explained to you guys earlier. Because I argue and fuss so much about when these LEs come out and they're proof down to 100. Knob Creek that came out last year, like, was a really good whiskey, but I'm like, man, what was it like at cask strength? And she's like, you just don't fully understand yet everything that you guys just said, which I think is true whiskey wisdom. And, that's something that she's been around for a while as well. And I guess just something that I'm going to have to learn is, adding the water to the whiskey is not always bad, but spoken like always, a true rookie.
But yeah,
you just drink it how you like it.
That right? Is, and I mean, it's
the biggest thing.
It's just too oaky and a little bit too tannic for me at 10 years. So that's why, like I said, I don't know. Pappy proofs it down a little bit, and there's some fantastic old whiskeys that are barrel proof, but also proof down. Yeah.
I was just so excited, like when the William Heaven Hill 19 came out, and I won one in a raffle, but it was, cask strength, 138, whatever, 139 proof. And I was like, this is the way it should be, and Knob Creek 21 sitting over there, proof down. Still a delicious whiskey. I'm just curious to know what it might have been, but it could have very well been like, you know, what you said, Colby, and they had to do it. But I also wonder about some of these larger brands that have so many investors and accountants, if it's not a bean counter decision to, you know, make a little bit more money, right? How far can we proof it down? It still tastes good and we can get more bottles out of it, kind of thing. But there again, just lack of my knowledge.
And that's what we don't want to do. Like, I mean, sacrificing our reputation or whatever to proof it down a little bit and make more money doesn't help us in the long run. Like, we're trying to build a brand. So we said from the beginning, we want to do everything the right way, not necessarily the easy or cheap way. If it costs a little more, if it takes a little more time, that's okay, because we don't want to ruin our reputation. And so that's why our first whiskey was 5 years old when we released it. So obviously we could have released it at 4 or even under 4, not called it straight, or put an age statement on it or whatever. But we didn't want to do that. You only get one first impression, and we were in love with it at 4. But we even waited till 5 just to kind of see what happens and do it the right way.
How tough is that though? On the very first release of the very first whiskey, like, that patience is a virtue. I can't imagine having it. I'm afraid I probably would jump the gun.
As a farmer, you kind of have to. I mean, you're planting, like, we'll plant a rye field in October, and we don't harvest it till the next July or August, you know, and you're tending it the whole time. You're just kind of patiently waiting for it to grow. Similar to the barrels, except there's a lot more time for those. But the benefit, or what we had, is we got to taste it all the time. So it was no big deal. We got to, you know, the sample.
Hats off to you for it. And you guys never sourced either, like, to put out stuff earlier to generate revenue. Like, I'm assuming the farm generated the revenue for the business for you guys to be able to wait out the whiskey.
Yeah, we were working hard on the farm. We were farming, like, we have a tremendous amount of equipment, and we were going around doing farm work for other farmers and just making any dollars we could to buy a couple more barrels to fill them up with whiskey, and really working hard those first 5 years while the whiskey was aging. Because that's what a lot of people don't realize is you have to have, if you release your first whiskey at 5 years, you have to have been producing for 5 years to keep a constant supply of aged whiskey. So it was really, that was a fun time, but stressful time.
I think that's one thing that a lot of us as consumers don't realize is just that, you know, and we just want the whiskey, the bottle on the shelf. You know, it's almost like I was thinking earlier, we were talking about farming, and I'm assuming it was a joke, but there was a thing on social media years ago where a lady said, why do we even need farmers? I just go to the grocery store. You know? Why do we need distillers? I just go to the liquor store. But that's a crazy thing for us as consumers is, we expect certain things, right? The whiskey's got to be a certain way. The price has got to be a certain way. The availability's got to be a certain way. And none of us understand exactly what all is going on. And from your standpoint, I mean, literally from turning the earth to putting it in the bottle and getting it on the shelf, there is so much that goes on. Just from getting it in the bottle and putting it on the shelf itself is painful. Like, I wouldn't even want to, so many people as influencers want to start their own brand, whether it's distilling or non-distilling. I don't have any desire, I don't think, to do that, just because of all the red tape that goes along with it.
It's a huge amount, like all of it's the licensing, and then we're all bonded, and we're lucky because we're farmers and we're patient and that kind of stuff. But it tests your nerves every once in a while. A different red tape. I'm sure.
I guess two quick questions. I don't know. Like, I looked at this bottle the other day and I was thinking, I mean, is this to look like a silo, or what's the shape of the bottle?
Yeah.
It reminded me of a silo.
For sure, yeah. We really wanted all the design elements to tie back to me and Colby on the farm. And so those of you that have held a FREY Ranch bottle or seen a FREY Ranch bottle will understand that, it is truly a piece of art. So the topper's in the shape of a bolt, which is just a common tool you would see here on the farm. It's made out of recycled metal. It's got some serious weight to it, so don't drop it.
It's got a ton of weight to it.
Yeah. And then the yellow color comes from Colby's got his piece of corn here queued up for us, but it's the same. We drew that inspiration for the color on our label straight from the corn that we grow right in the field. And then the shape of the label that represents a belt and a belt buckle, and it actually wraps all the way around just like a belt and belt buckle would. And that was passed down from Colby's grandfather to his dad and then to him. So a subtle nod to our heritage, but using vibrant colors and, you know, focusing on our generation and what we've done on the farm. And then if you flip the bottle over embossed on the rim of the glass, so just a fun hidden design element, it says be good to the land and the land will be good to you. It's our Frey family motto, something that we live by daily on the farm, and really making sure that we take good care of the soil and give back so that we leave it in better condition than we received it for our kids. Yeah, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
So the thing that I like most on this is it says made in USA. So, I mean, you guys are sparing no expense on your product. Like, you take so much pride in this that it just blows me away. You're not just trying to get whiskey to market. Like, you are trying to build one of the best brands ever. Like, this is awesome.
So we put a lot into it. I mean, leveraged the farm to build the distillery and do a lot of stuff. And so I don't know how to explain it, but we can't mess up, because I don't want to be the one that loses the farm because we did something wrong. So we really focus. It's even more important than just, you know, somebody starting a brand. It's like, this is our whole family heritage, that my goal in life is to pass the farm in to my kids in as good or better condition than I received it in. We farmers kind of just consider ourselves temporary stewards of the land. When we die, we can't take the land with us. Right. So we're just taking care of it until we can pass it on to the next person. That's my goal, is to hopefully my kids want to farm and we can pass the farm on to them. And so, so I'm hoping that it makes it worthwhile to keep farming. Farming is so hard. There's not a lot of money in it. It would be smarter to sell the farm, invest the money somewhere else. We could make 10 times the income that we currently make and not even have to work. That's not who we are. And I hope that it makes it worthwhile to keep the farm in the family, the distillery.
That speaks volumes. That speaks volumes. Tiffany is saying, you know, what can they do? And this may be a discussion for offline with her, but to get distribution in South Carolina in 26.
It's tough. Yeah. You know, market's kind of upside down right now. Those of us that are in the industry, it's really tough out there. Distributors are struggling. They don't want to carry a lot of inventory. And because we've never sourced, we actually try to keep our current distributors in the current states that we're in satisfied. So as more of our product becomes available and we've got more age stuff, we'll definitely expand to more states like South Carolina.
Yeah, it's on our list.
Yeah, it's definitely on our list.
Awesome. Well, you guys have any closing remarks? We're right at time. I've held you up for an hour. I really, really appreciate your time.
No, it's fun talking to you.
We appreciate being here, and thanks for the thoughtful questions, and really are honored all the folks that joined us tonight.
Yeah, a lot of comments. You guys are great.
But those of you that want some of those fun bottles that we talked about, the single barrels, make sure you subscribe to our e-newsletter, The Dirt. We always
get the dirt on the Frey Ranch.
We always announce to subscribers first. So we'll have something fun landing on Friday. Hint, hint.
On Friday. Awesome.
Friday.
Well, I'm not
Friday. Ooh.
Yeah. I'm not buying any whiskey in 26. I'll trade cash for it, but I'm not going to buy any bottles.
There you go. Yeah. Good. Yeah. I'm not drinking any more either. I'm not drinking any less. So we're on the same page there.
Right. Awesome. Guys, thank y'all so much. Everybody, thank y'all for tuning in. If I didn't get to your question, I do apologize. I try my best, but I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Colby, Ashley, thank y'all. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Cheers.